Olympiacos is the European champions team for 2026, and I'm here to analyze the final game, the one between Olympiacos and Real Madrid that brought to Olympiacos the 2026 European Championship. But before that, I just want to remind you that you can find some useful links in the video description, and that you can also support this channel by interacting with this video. You can leave a like, a comment, some high points. You can do whatever you want to. But now let's get to the real matter of the video. Real Madrid was obviously without their centers. They were without Edi Tavares, Alex Len, but also Usman Garuba that got hurt in the semi-final against Valencia. So they couldn't physically dominate the glasses as they typically do in their games, especially on the offensive side of the rebounds. In fact, the rebounding battle finished 42-26 in favor of Olympiacos, and it is a rebounding margin not typical, as I said, for Real Madrid, but typical for a team that had to play small ball, so they had to play with Trey Lyles as the center. Chuma Okeke played some short minutes as a fake five, we can say, but overall Real Madrid stood their ground really well despite the height difference, especially with players like Nikola Milutinov, but also Donta Hall, Tyreek Jones, and traditional centers in general. So Real Madrid had to play through the passing lanes, and they forced 17 turnovers and scored 23 points of these turnovers, and that was certainly a big factor for Real Madrid to stay as close as possible to Panathinaikos in terms of points. So the game was prepared really well in these terms by Sergio Scariolo, but this is not something new, as Scariolo has always been preparing the games really well, especially on the defensive side. We didn't see the usual zone coverage or matchup zone that we typically see from Sergio Scariolo, especially in championship games, but it was, I think, a smart choice since for the Real Madrid personnel that could play in this game, using an aggressive man-to-man defense with aggressive coverages on pick and rolls, such as aggressive switches, such as blitzes, such as also the pill switches on the entry passes when Olympiacos tried to punish all the switches via post-ups with Milutinov, with Vezenkov, also Alec Peters. But as I said, Real Madrid was really good at pill switching, so taking away the shorter man that was guarding the post-up action and switching it with a bigger player near that area that often was Trey Lyles, and performing this type of switch while the ball was in the air because of the entry passes of Olympiacos. Defensively, they also top-locked Tyler Dorsey, and they also blitzed him in some situations, relying on the fact that he's not a really good decision maker, he's not a great passer, he can't read the defense really well, so they forced him to be a decision maker, something that he is not, and they took away from him some scoring opportunities, and that took away every possibility for Tyler Dorsey to take easy shots, and that ended up being the correct choice, as Tyler Dorsey scored only 1 point in this game and played only 12 minutes in total. So it was a good strategy on him, but I can't say the same for Evan Fournier. He was top locked too, but he made a way better job at cutting, at setting screens on ball and off ball, relocating. So overall, Evan Fournier found better opportunities, not only for his own scoring, but also for generating an efficient offense for the whole team. Real also did a great job on Nikola Milutinov, which was the focal point of this game, since his obvious height advantage over any other Real Madrid player was something that could have been exploited by Olympiacos, but as I said, Real did a very good job, not only in pill switching, but also in staying in front of him, also back to the basket. So that ended up being a good system against Olympiacos' main big man, but also Donta Hall couldn't have much of an impact in this game. So overall, Real Madrid worked really well on defense, in my opinion. And on offense, they utilized the Trey Lyles, who was guarded by Sasha Vezenkov, as the pick and pop screener. So when Olympiacos tried to play some aggressive coverage, like some hedges with Vezenkov, they couldn't keep up with the defensive coverage. And the fact that Trey Lyles was very good at slipping the screen and relocating immediately out of the perimeter to take some open threes. And this resulted in a great first half played by Trey Lyles. He scored 21 points only in the first 2 quarters. And he was not only effective on pick and pop situations, but also with post-ups against smaller players on switches. He was also very good on spot-up shooting when the Olympiacos defense shrinked to the paint like they often do, especially as they often did in these final 4 games. And Trey Lyles was overall very, very important for Real Madrid. But talking about Olympiacos, as I said, Nicola Milutino and Donta Hall didn't give much in terms of both offensive production, but also defensive production on the court. So Tyreek Jones was the better alternative, as we also, me and Dido, predicted in the preview of this game. But I'm a big fan of Tyreek Jones. I'm a fan of the fact that he can switch easily on guards and stay in front of them on the perimeter, because he's very quick with his feet. He's a decent rim protector, I say, because he's very athletic. He has some good shot blocking timing. He has some very underrated skills, but then he's also very eager to show his value whenever he's on the court. He's very aggressive. He always plays as if he had something to prove to someone, which is the correct mentality. Players like him, but also Matthias Lesort, are very good at this, and they always make a huge impact whenever they play. So Tyreek Jones played the whole 4th quarter. He didn't play a single second before the 4th quarter, but he immediately had a great impact. He finished with the plus 11 as his plus minus. And about the lineup that ended the game, Bartzokas utilized one lineup that didn't play a single minute throughout the entire Euroleague season, but played the most important minutes of the most important game. This lineup was composed by Thomas Walkup, Evan Fournier, Alec Peters, Sasha Vezenkov, and Nicola Milutino. It was a very big lineup, as I said, with Vezenkov as a small forward. And I think that it worked, especially on the defensive side. They were very aggressive. They didn't concede open shots against a team that can create easily open shots like Real Madrid. They have players that can make a lot of correct reads very quickly. Campazzo, obviously, but also Feliz and all the other secondary ball handlers that this team has, other than all the knockdown shooters that they have to punish the defensive rotation. So it wasn't easy for Olympiacos to contain the Real Madrid offense, especially with, as I said, a lineup with basically 3 bigs, 1 wing, and Thomas Walkup, which is a big point guard. But they managed to do so, even though in the final minute of the game, Olympiacos was up by 8, but then maybe some pressure started to feel inside of Olympiacos players' minds, and they committed some very risky mistakes. They gave the ball away very easily. They conceded some important offensive rebounds, especially on intentional missed free throws by some Real Madrid players. And at one point, Andrés Feliz, at 15 seconds to the end of the game, Andres Feliz had the opportunity to tie the game at 88, but missed the 3, and Olympiacos was deservedly crowned as the Euroleague champions. I say deservedly because they have been the best team in the regular season. They broke the first seed curse, but they also showed to be the best team in the postseason too. They won all games after the regular season. They swept Monaco, they faced Fenerbahce, they faced Real Madrid, but most importantly, they faced some teams that switched a lot against Bartzokas' team, and in other years that would have been something very hard to face for Olympiacos, since switching kind of threw off Bartzokas' system usually, but this year they were ready, they were motivated, they were tactically very prepared, and I want to highlight also Bartzokas' work throughout this whole season. They play some very beautiful basketball, and the series against Monaco was something really enjoyable for basketball fans, especially for neutral basketball fans. So congratulations to Olympiacos. Congratulations also to Evan Fournier, who won the Final Four MVP. In the final, he scored 20 points, but most importantly had plus 22 assists plus minus in only 27 minutes. I personally would have picked another player that I really enjoy watching, like Alec Peters. He played a perfect semifinal when he scored 7 out of 7 field goals against Fenerbahce. He scored 16 with 5 out of 6 field goal, almost perfect again, but he missed the first field goal of the game and had plus 20 plus minus in his 20 minutes, which is something really amazing and that I want to highlight. But the fact that Fournier won the Final Four MVP was obviously not undeserved, but as I said, I would have picked Peters, and this all demonstrates and proved how Olympiacos could work, maybe not perfectly, but good enough to get things done, even though Sasha Vezenkov and Tyler Dorsey didn't play at their best, even though they were not the favorites for the Final Four MVP, and this is massive for Olympiacos. So they did a great job, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy for the Olympiacos fans, and as I said, they deservedly won this huge title that they were missing for 13 years. And that was all for today. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, you can do the things that I mentioned in the intro. But with that said, see you in the next video.